Jordan's opened a lot of doors for what we've always wanted to do, you know what I mean, and we've become better musicians, and I think I guess it's whether Jordan were in this band or not, it wouldn't sound like we used to. Whatever record we do, it probably wouldn't sound like this, but it would also not sound like the band those people wanted to sound like, because it's just not us anymore, you know what I mean? We've squeezed metal for all it's worth, and I think if we were to write another album like Sempiternal, it would just be treading old ground.
Just not what we're into either.
No.
It's a band at the end of the day, isn't it? I think people don't realise that we're all... Someone, in my last interview, someone said, oh, so what do the other guys think? Are they all into it? I was like, of course they are.
Yeah.
Imagine if they weren't. You know
It'd be mental.
It would be weird, wouldn't it?
The music we've wrote for That's the Spirit, and the album we've made is for no other reason than that's the music we love, you know what I mean? It's just a bonus that it's mainstream, you know what I mean? Because we like mainstream music, you know what I mean, as well as other types of music, and that's why it doesn't really sound like, people might call it a mainstream record, but it's not a pop record really, is it? It's got pop aspects of it, but in all reality it's still a very heavy and visceral album, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just the music we want to write. There's a lot of personal stuff on the record. I think it's, for the first time, it's not about a specific personal crisis, and it's more about us as a society and a generation and the world, and it's all about depression and how we deal with it or don't deal with it. And it's all about making light out of dark situations, you know what I mean? That's the spirit is. It's kind of finding the good in the bad and the bad in the good. Like, that's the spirit is meant to be a positive saying, I guess, but it's actually a very, if you scratch the surface, it's quite bleak, you know what I mean? It's not something you say in any kind of good situation. It's only ever used in situations where you don't really know what else to say. And I think we're now being able to ignore dark thoughts or, you know, negative emotions and stuff by really never having to be alone with our thoughts, and always being able to be connected or be able to talk to people, whether it's in real life or not, and always be able to get our mind onto something else. And I think that's the biggest mistake we make as a society, because we're not dealing with anything. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of been the whole, I don't know, thing with our band has all been about we've gone through the hard part, we've gone through the darkness, we've gone through the shit parts, and that's why our band's so strong and better than ever, because we've, you know, dealt with all that rather than just coasting through it. And it's just, I guess you can't ignore the darkness, you know what I mean? And I think by accepting it, embracing your demons, sometimes that can be the most positive thing you can do.
We released it first because it's probably the most immediate song on the album, and it's quite fast paced and I guess relatively simple, really.
I remember saying as well, you didn't have to learn the chorus because it's just thrown.
It's just immediately sing-alongable. Yeah, it just was one of the first ones that jumped out to us on the album.
It's probably the closest thing to anything we've done before. It's definitely the most generic song, but not in a bad way. It's just
to the point.
It's a straight up rock, you know, big anthem. You know what I mean? Which you don't have to think about. It's just straight to the point, and it's one that's perfect for playing live and just.
We liked how it was quite short as well.
Yeah.
It was just like a good comeback song for us, yeah, and just like a good start. There was so much more to the album than that song, so it kind of seemed like start with that, and you know, almost maybe people might think, oh, this is cool. This is probably what the rest of the album's going to sound like.
It's quite a good gateway song.
Yeah, because it's not, the album's so varied and stuff that it's really just, it's almost like a bit of a trick song to open with, because I think people would come away from hearing that song thinking they know what the rest of the album's going to sound like, and it doesn't sound like that at all, so musically anyway.
Lyrically, it's about, I guess, people having beliefs that they don't believe in and feeling like they have some kind of obligation to uphold them, even though it disagrees with everything that they stand for or actually, you know, makes logical sense. And I guess something I've witnessed firsthand, especially like going over to American stuff, is like religion can take control of people that are otherwise very clever and stuff, and when you try and have conversations with them about it, they don't even know themselves and they're very confused and
ignore it. Don't
Yeah.
No logic to it.
I don't think about that.
Yeah, it spouted from something very close to me that that happened, I guess, in front of me, and it's trying to like get around that mind fucker. Like, if these powers that be actually existed, they would know that you don't really believe anyway, because they'd be all powerful, all knowing, and they would know that you don't believe, and which obviously is hard to make sense of. But it's just like, why are you pretending? Because if it mattered anyway, they'd see you're a fraud. You know what I mean? And it's just, I think people think it's not a damaging thing to believe in something that's not real, but for me it is, because you're supporting something that's responsible for a lot of shit. You know what I mean? Religion's the root of all evil, really, and it not only in a world sense, but like if you're raising a kid or something and trying to teach them about the world, but also trying to teach them about something that's not true, and trying to like uphold beliefs. You know what I mean? Especially if you go in something. I mean, they're all bad, but there's some there where it's like toys are evil, the magicians are, you know, evil, and you can't even watch a simple children's. What?
Paul Daniels evil.
Yeah, like you can't even.
David Blaine evil. Dynamite's not evil.
Uri Geller, he's got to be evil.
Yeah, he
Well,
seems like
stuff that's going to separate you basically from other kids and other, you know what I mean? Stuff, just you're going to confuse people, especially if what you're saying you don't even really believe it yourself, what you're doing. So I think it is detrimental it's more detrimental than people think, and I think people have got to separate, people have got to step away from that unless they really truly believe.
Musically, like the one we had lying about for ages.
Yeah,
we
just
started it and then like kept it.
Yeah, we just changed it right at the end.
I think it's one of the more raw sounding ones.
Yeah.
I think anyway. It's just the drum beat's really simple. It's just hi-hats and it's just a solid beat and that, and then
It's all about the guitar solo.
that song's the best bit in the song is the solo.
Yeah.
The bluesy.
Want it to be on a car commercial as well. So.
Yeah.
That sounds like James Bond or something.
What next Volvo or something like that.
Timekeeper bit.
Skoda.
Yeah. Fiat Panda.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the good things about our set now is there's so much dynamic to it all, because we can go from like the heavy stuff and then strip down to like a ballad, you know what I mean? And I think it gives you so much more than your average metal or rock band, because there's just, you can go from moshing to then getting on someone's shoulders, or just singing along. There's just a lot going on, and I think although like each album's been different, it has been a progression, so nothing feels like stupid, you know what I mean?
It just works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you can change it as well, like gig to gig. If we're playing like a big arena show or whatever, we can play some slower stuff and some ballads. If we're playing like a little show, like we want loads of energy, we'll play faster songs and we'll leave out the big songs, So
when we did Reading and Leeds, we did Throne and Happy Song and Drown, and they just all felt like our
just
songs.
fit in.
Yeah,
They feel great,
It's just
right?
fine. Yeah, there's no. To be honest, they don't even the heavier ones and the ones that you might call softer ones. They all feel just like big tunes.
They come across well live.
Yeah.
Like Drown's probably one of our softest songs, and it was one of the biggest tunes at Reading and Leeds. So
I think that's what's great as well, is that those songs are always going to be there, and people like getting butthurt about the fact that the new album's not got as much heavy stuff. It's like, well, those songs are still there and still going to play them.
yeah.
You know what I mean?